Hi, boys and girls. I'm so excited that you're here to listen to my story today. My name is Jylene Morgan. Welcome to Grandma Grape's Reading Corner. Today I am going to read you the book called Bummer, Our Pet Bighorn Sheep, written by Jylene Morgan. The big double doors of the school slammed shut as I ran through them across the schoolyard and into our backyard. To the left of our property stood a small old shed built from planks of wood that had weathered and discolored over the years. Thoughts were racing through my brain as I ran. This was the beginning of our summer vacation. I loved that my dad was a bighorn sheep biologist. We would probably spend time in the Idaho primitive area, camping out in the tents, tracking the bighorn sheep, and traveling all over the state of Idaho. My thoughts screeched into a halt when I heard whispering floating softly through the air. I looked towards the old shed at the back of our yard. There stood my three brothers, J.P., Kendon, and Kelly, with their heads close together, looking in the window of the shed. "Hey!" I yelled excitedly. They all turned, looked over at me, and put their fingers silently up to their mouths and whispered, "Shh." I ran over to them, and my brother Kendon whispered excitedly, "Sherry, look in the window and see what's in the shed." I stood on my tiptoes and peeked in the window. At first, all I could see was Dad kneeling in the middle of the shed, looking into the corner. Then something moved. I focused on the movement. I sucked in my breath in astonishment and loudly whispered, "What? That is a baby bighorn sheep." Dad stood up and waved to us to come in. We silently crept in the shed and sat down on the floor. We knew when Dad was working with an animal, we had to move slowly and quietly. As we sat down, Kelly, in his little 5-year-old voice, said, "Oh, she is so very tiny and fragile." He had just learned what the word fragile meant. Dad whispered, "I'm going to feed her now. I better be the only one to feed her so she will think I am her mother." He reached into a big pocket in his coat, pulled out a large soda bottle with a rubber nipple stretched over the end, and held it out to the baby sheep. The minute she saw it, she grabbed onto the nipple and instantly turned into a package of dynamite. All 4 of her little black hoofs pounded loudly on the floor. She sucked noisily, milk drooling out of the side of her mouth. Her body jerked sideways and up and down as she pulled on the bottle, and her little white stubby tail was going back and forth a mile a minute. In no time, all the milk was gone, and she instantly settled back into a tiny, fragile little baby sheep. Dad said, "Pet her softly and let her get to know you." J.P. reached out and touched her. He said, "She doesn't have wool like domestic sheep. Her fur is stiff, short, and straight." Pretty soon we were all petting the baby sheep and running around the shed. The baby sheep was bunning us with her head, and we were all having a great time. After we had played for a while, Dad said, "Okay, let's settle down. See those 2 bales of straw in the corner of the shed? Let's spread them all over the floor. This is going to be her home, so we need to make it soft and warm for her to sleep on." Just as we were finishing up, Mom stuck her head in the shed. She was a teacher at the elementary school and was on her way home. "Hey, what's going on in here?" she said. Then her eyes grew very wide. She pointed her finger in surprise and said, "Oh, my word! That's a baby bighorn sheep. Where in the world did she come from?" Dad said, "I found her in the lambing area. Her mother was dead, so I brought her home with me." Mom's surprise didn't last long. She was used to Dad springing surprises on us. "Well, does she have a name?" Dad answered, "No, we were waiting for you." We all sat down on the floor of the shed with the baby sheep right in the middle. We discussed different names. We finally decided to call her Bummer, because the name Bummer means a lamb without a mother. The evening shadows began to lengthen, and the sun was moving low in the sky. Mom got up and said, "It's getting late. We'd better go in the house." We all silently moved out of the shed, and Dad closed the door. As soon as that door closed and Bummer couldn't see us, she went totally berserk. Crash, she ran head on into the door, and then crash, she ran across the floor and crashed into the wall. Then she ran back across the floor and crashed into another wall. All the time she was bleating pitifully. "Bah, bah, bah." "She's going to hurt herself," yelled Mom. JP shouted, "Somebody open the door." Dad grabbed the door handle and jerked it open. As soon as Bummer saw us, she calmed right down and ran over to join us. Dad ran his hands over her to see if she was hurt. She was okay, just had a little cut under one of her eyes. She gave a happy bleat and started to walk along with the family. Mother looked at Dad, shook her head, and said, "What are we going to do?" Dad stated, "Well, you know, Bighorn sheep are herding animals. They live together in herds. I guess we have become Bummer's herd, so we will probably have to take her in the house with us." Mom just turned, shrugged her shoulders, and started for the house. We followed her, with Bummer marching right along with us, like she had always been a member of the family. When we walked into the living room, Bummer stopped and carefully looked around. Then she ran across the room and jumped up on the back of the couch. Bighorn sheep like to be on the highest ledge in the area so they can keep an eye out for predators. For Bummer, the highest ledge in the living room was the back of the couch. This spot became one of her favorite places. After dinner, Bummer was standing on the back of the couch when knock, knock, knock sounded at the front door. Dad got up, stepped outside, and closed the door. Because Dad was the only one feeding Bummer, she again went berserk. When he left the room, her source of food was gone. Crash! She ran haphazardly around the room. Crash! She ran into the door. Crash! She ran head first into a window. We tried to catch her, but she was too upset and running too fast. We couldn't hold on to her. Dad quickly ran back into the room. Bummer immediately calmed down, ran up and sniffed at Dad and settled right down. Her tail started to wag, and she became very happy again. Sherry said, "We know that baby Bighorn sheep identify their mothers by their smell, so why don't I put on Dad's coat and hat and see what Bummer does if Dad goes outside?" We tried this experiment, and sure enough, it worked. Dad's leaving didn't faze Bummer at all. She just snuggled into his coat and was content. Dad made a decision right there and said, "We all need to take turns feeding Bummer. That way she will be comfortable even if there is only one of us with her." Dad went into his office to finish up paperwork for the day. Dad's office was in Mom and Dad's bedroom. When Dad sat down to work, Bummer jumped up on the bed, sat with legs folded under her head high, body alert, and rested. From then on, any time Dad was working, the bed became another favorite spot. Our first day with Bummer came to an end. Mom called, "It's time for bed, kids." She tucked Kendon and Kelly into bed, and they were so tired they fell asleep immediately. Bumper jumped up onto the foot of the bed and claimed her spot for the night. I heard Mom softly say as she walked out of the room, "Good night, my 3 little ones." As I was drifting off to sleep, the thought ran through my mind, I wonder what adventures are in store for us with this newest member of our family. That's the end. My name is Jylene Morgan. I have just read to you the book of Bummer, Our Pet Bighorn Sheep. Thank you for joining me at Grandma Grape's Reading Corner. Bye. See you next time.